What's going on, everyone? So in the last video, we left off where Ripple Labs basically became Ripple Labs and was rebranded from OpenCoin. And we went over a lot of these big investments that were coming their way, and that's kind of where we wrapped it up. So that's where we're going to kind of start off from there. So right after all this happens, Jed McCaleb leaves Ripple, and he co-founds Stellar with Joyce Kim. McCaleb stopped working for the Ripple Labs and resigned as Chief Technology Officer in May of 2013. Stephen Thomas took over as CTO. He had created the What is Bitcoin YouTube video in 2011. While serving as a director of Ripple Labs, McCaleb secretly began working on a rival cryptocurrency based on a fork, which is a protocol created using a direct copy of the Ripple protocol, a significant portion of which had been created by Arthur Brito, the mystery man that we covered in the last one. Apparently, he's not really a mystery man, but there's no pictures of him. It is interesting. So here's Stellar. This is XLM. That might make it sound a little more familiar to some of you. I'm super bullish on these guys for a lot of the same reasons I'm bullish on Ripple, especially considering, it's pretty much the same thing. I feel like they have a little bit of a different roadmap, though. That's why I think they're both going to be successful. Not financial advice, just, something I was thinking on. So anyway, all this is happening in 2013, right? So some interesting things that were also going on. Stephen Thomas is the founder of Coil, which, if you're familiar with Coil, it's actually, I got it way over here. It's a new way to enjoy content. You can enjoy monetized content while supporting the sites you love in real time. So it helps with web monetization, and the customer experience that kind of goes hand in hand with that. They got a lot of cool stuff going on. Something you might want to check out. So you had him there. Some other interesting things is that Vitalik Buterin, the co-founder of Ethereum, they talk about, I tried to be an intern in Ripple in the mid-2013. Well, Jed McCaleb left, I believe it said in May, so that's pretty mid. So, this is all happening around the same time. U.S. visa complications having to do with the fact the company had only existed for 9 months and the minimum was 1 year stopped me. Now, what is interesting, and he even says here, I think you want to use XRP. The chart would look the same, so it's sound money, but they have institutional adoption and partnerships, so they are better. He talks about right here where what Ripple has accomplished is impressive. With Ripple, we have a way of sending, receiving, and holding any currency, not just one specific currency, in a decentralized way. So Vitalik Buterin said that. Another interesting thing, and this is just some thread I found on it real quick, but I have seen the interviews with some of these guys where they talk about it. I just couldn't find the video. Ethereum is built on top of some of the core implementation ideas that Vitalik learned from Ripple while he was there, and he was even quoted, Ethereum's concept of a separate state tree and transaction list is borrowed from Ripple and mitigates this to some extent. So, he was also sleeping on Stephen Thomas's couch, which it does talk about, and I've seen interviews where they refer to all that, and that's when he was thinking about becoming the intern. So it is interesting. It seems to me like he picked up some stuff while he was there and took it with him, and that's fine. The ETH network is super developed, and I got no beef with it as long as they can fix their gas fees. But on from all that, around that same time, Greg Kidd came to work for Ripple 2013. I believe he was he's still the chief risk officer, or he still holds some advisory board position, I believe. But anyway, so he comes there. And this is just some interesting stuff about Greg Kidd. I have seen in videos where he pretty much told them they didn't even have to pay him. He just wanted the opportunity to work with Ripple because he thought what they were working on was fantastic. And I believe he got 1% of the entire float, which would be 1 billion XRP. I'm pretty positive that's what he's got. But you can see, he invested in Coinbase and their IPO, Filecoin, GateHub, Geek Lists. I mean, some of these are pretty big. Where's some other big ones? Robinhood, you can see how he's leaning into the crypto stuff hard. Solana, Uphold. There's another. Well, they're not really an exchange; they're more of like a broker platform, but same thing, whatever. Twitter, the guy. Then you go down here, and he's worked at Ripple. It's pretty impressive guy. Board of Governors at the Federal Reserve once upon a time. Booz Allen Hamilton. If you're not familiar with them, you should look them up. They pop up all over all kinds of stuff. And Global ID, which is something he's also working on, which is an awesome project. You should check that out as well. So the point I'm trying to make is in 2013, all these people start coming together. A couple people leave, and like this whole new team comes in. And then in 2014, XRP becomes the second largest cryptocurrency in the world behind only Bitcoin. And it rode that path for quite a while. So in 2015, the Interledger protocol gets developed. The Interledger's market size equals all the money. You'll hear that a lot. It's a hashtag I use. It's something that Ripple has been, people at Ripple anyway, have been quoted as saying, what's the capacity? What is the scalability? And it's not a dollar menu. It's just all of it. Whatever there is, that's what they can transport. That's it's not me stating that as fact. That is just repeating what has been said. The Interledger Protocol (ILP) is a neutral and open protocol for linking ledgers and payment networks. Like the internet, connectors route packets of money across independent networks. The open architecture and minimal protocol enable interoperability. That's another word we hear all the time. For any value transfer system, Interledger is not tied to a single company, blockchain, or currency. And if you look at Interledger, they're all about like financial inclusion and stuff like that. You'll notice a lot of these big crypto blockchain companies. Excuse me. Africa is a really big place they're tackling because their finance is not available in some of those areas. I mean, there's a lot of areas it's not, but Africa is a big focus. And then you go down here. So the Interledger Foundation. Look, there's Coil. That's Stephen Thomas. You got Cinnamon. And then you have Mojo Loop. Now, Mojo Loop is something I've followed for a while. I posted about him a while back. I didn't get too involved in it, but it's something my eyes are on big time, and I'll tell you why. The Mojo Loop Foundation was designed to provide a reference model for payment interoperability, there's that word, that can be used to overcome barriers that have slowed the spread of digital financial services. So they're pushing digital finance, right? It's Mojo Loop. Whole, adapted, or as a blueprint, the Mojo Loop's Foundation's open source software can be used by organizations to build interoperable digital payment systems that enable seamless, affordable financial services between individual users, banks, government entities, merchants, yada, 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 yada. You get the point. Now, here's what's awesome. Mojo Loop Foundation initial sponsor members. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Coil, Google, the Rockefeller Foundation. These are some big names, guys. I feel like everybody should be pretty familiar with most of those. Maybe not Coil, but if you're not, just Google those, please, because it'll make a lot more sense. And then here's your sponsor members. This is where it ties in a little bit more that I think is interesting. Look who shows up on here. Ripple and the Monetary Authority of Singapore, which Ripple's done a ton of work with. So all that's pretty interesting too, I think. There's going to be some more dots we're going to connect as we continue on through here. So that happens in 2015. And so do the last two events that we're going to cover. Brad Garlinghouse joins Ripple, and then in 2016 he becomes the CEO. Now we're still in 2015 as far as this video goes, but let's talk about Brad Garlinghouse. It talks about some of this stuff. He was here I have it pulled up here actually. It talks a little bit about his stuff here, but we're just going to hop over to his LinkedIn, and you will see, he's been at Ripple for 6 years. He was a board member at Ancestry.com, president of applications and commerce at AOL, Silver Lake. Remember that, Silver Lake. Senior advisor, Yahoo. He was a senior vice president. You know, he's held some pretty major roles. When it comes to business, Brad's the man. So anyway, this is when he joined up. We'll go look at Silver Lake. This is their portfolio. We are not going to go through all of this, but trust me when I tell you, there are plenty of big names. I mean, Airbnb, GoodRx. This is stuff I'm just seeing, you know, as a Peloton's on here. I mean, they have invested in a lot of cool stuff. Twitter's on here. Let's just look at it real quick. It's not as long as I thought it was. Madison Square Garden Sports, Fanatics, Expedia Group, you know, all kinds of cool stuff. Now, what's interesting about Silver Lake is you get into here, the Digital Dollar Project names 22 advisory group members. Where's it out here? And what they are is they are basically working on to see what a CBDC would look like for the dollar. You know, an actual digital dollar, like a Fed coin is what a lot of us refer to it as right now. I'm not seeing it. Anyway, Silver Lake is part of this. It's on here somewhere. I don't know why I can't find it. I thought I had it. But it also ties it in, when you get over here, to Accenture being a part of it. Now, what's interesting about Accenture, they have crazy ecosystem of partners. Just off this first one, I mean, Adobe's a huge company. AT&T is a huge company. Alibaba is a huge company. Apple is huge. I mean, this is just the first page. It goes on and on. I mean, MicroStrategy, Microsoft, you know, even Nokia. I mean, I don't know what they're even doing these days, but it's still a big company. Anyway, you get the idea. They're pretty huge. So they are a part of it. The digital dollar thing is pretty much, they're like one of the main leading forces in it. And what's interesting is when you go to their portfolio, look who's right at the top of the most investments they've made. Ripple. And that is the same Ripple. Believe that. And then where it gets more interesting is they are now being considered partners. They're not listed in the ecosystem, but the narrative has been building for a couple of years. The Bank of England picked Ripple partner Accenture to create payments network. So, you know, here you have a central bank using a Ripple partner to create a payment network for the central bank. That's what Ripple does. This is 1 degree of separation with, you know, not even. And then this is just 3 weeks ago. Ripple's partner Accenture writes paper with Swift on CBDCs, and Brad Garlinghouse has been on video where he said that they're not even in competition with Swift. They're very open to the idea of them and Swift working on something together to just get this all rolling. And now they're partners writing papers with Swift on central bank digital currencies. And we all know that Ripple pilots a private ledger for central banks launching CBDCs. This was released in March. So this is a little foreshadowing of where the next couple of videos are going to go. And just to finish it off with Big Brad, he also wrote the Peanut Butter Manifesto, which I did share this in the group the other day. If you haven't read it, you should just Google the Peanut Butter Manifesto and find one of the links that has it. It's fantastic. He basically highlights how when he was the senior VP at Yahoo, the resources were being spread too thinly like peanut butter on bread, and basically gets into the fact that if they would have been more hyper-focused and not, you know, as diluted, it would have made that much more of an impact, which he was totally right. And a lot of companies falter in that regard. But that's pretty much the end of this video. We'll get back into it, but just remember, they're writing papers with Swift. They're partners. They also pilot the ledger. And they ain't never been spread too thin, because the only thing Ripple's been focused on the entire time is central banks. A lot of people say they're anti-crypto. I had somebody, I don't want to put his name out there because he's involved in the industry, but he thinks that that Ripple is a cancer in the industry. And if you go from the viewpoint of or the perspective rather of decentralization and kind of going against the man, which a lot of people do feel that way, and I totally understand it, then you're not totally wrong. But for me, these guys are tied in. There's no way in my mind that they are going to lose, and it's just, I think it's already written. It's not financial advice or anything like that. I just think that's what's going on. And I'm not betting against the central banks of the world. We'll get more into where they come into play with all this here soon. But that's going to be the end of this video, and I'll see you guys on the next one.